At the departure gate, he held her a little longer than he should have. Said he would wait, that he would love her, even from afar. Emma believed him. But deep in her suitcase, folded between sweaters and books, she carried a quiet doubt. Can an ocean really hold up a love? Or do promises die in the silence between different time zones? Not every love ends with a goodbye. Some just begin to slowly fade away. The cold in Dublin wasn't just a climate, it was a kind of silence. The wind cut through her coat, climbed up her sleeves, and made her hunch her shoulders every time she stepped outside. But she liked that. It kept her heart alert. She had just arrived, a year abroad, studying English literature. She wanted to write stories that would stand, even after everything else had fallen. Her days started early, with the sound of the heater clicking on and rushed footsteps in the hallway. The student house was old, with drafty windows and the lingering smell of stale bread. But she'd grown attached to the tiny room overlooking a small park. There, she hung postcards, photos of her family, and one of the two of them, Emma and Noah, lying in the grass at Prospect Park, laughing at nothing. In those first weeks, everything amazed her. The double-decker buses, the heavy Irish accents, the hidden cafes tucked between alleyways, the unfamiliar taste of black tea. She walked alone, but didn't feel lonely. Noah was her emotional anchor back home. They talked every day. Long voice messages in the morning, video calls at night, even if the time difference made them yawn through the last 5 minutes. She showed him the city through her camera. He showed her the dog. She talked about her classes. He talked about work. They laughed, even with the delay. They were two distant points tethered by a shared earbud. One Sunday, he said, "When I visit, you'll have to take me to all those hidden cafes." "And that wine bar we loved," she added. "Obviously, I can already taste the bread," he joked. Emma wrote in her notebook like someone documenting a life newly borrowed. She kept ticket stubs, museum passes, dried leaves from parks. She believed real love knew how to wait. Even across time zones, across static-filled calls and long silences. A classmate, Marta from Poland, would invite her for quick lunches after lectures. They shared meals, laughed at accents, made fun of academic English. At night, Emma would return to her narrow bed, curl under the covers, and wait. She knew the phone would buzz. She knew his voice would bring home back to her, even if just for a few seconds. That's what kept everything standing. Certainty. And the promise. But over time, something changed. At first, it was barely noticeable. Noah started replying later. His messages got shorter. He used too many periods. "Things are a bit hectic here. Talk later. Going to bed early tonight." Emma tried not to overthink. Blamed the routine, the distance, exhaustion. But she could feel the absence living inside his words. To distract herself, she threw herself into her classes. One of her favorites was called Narratives of the Everyday. The professor encouraged them to write about small, ordinary moments, as if they were sacred. Emma loved that. She wrote about the cold, about longing, about a kind of love that seemed to be drifting, but didn't know how to say it. That week, Marta took her to see a play. They drank warm wine in the street, stumbled over English phrases, laughed until their cheeks hurt. For a few hours, Emma felt like she belonged somewhere. But when she got home, her phone was still quiet. No message. She fell asleep with the blank notification glowing on the screen. The next Sunday, after a long class on Virginia Woolf, she opened Instagram just out of habit. She wasn't expecting anything. just scrolling. She stopped at a story reposted by a mutual friend. Noah, alone, at their wine bar, white linen tablecloth, a half-full glass, the brick wall that had been in the background of a photo they'd taken months ago. Her heart tightened without a sound. She texted, "Did you go to our spot tonight?" The reply came minutes later, short, flat, like a weather report. "Yeah, nothing else." Emma stared at the screen. The quiet in the room suddenly sounded louder than the Irish pub playing music outside. That night, for the first time, she felt something had shifted. And maybe it wouldn't shift back. 2 days after the photo, Emma was still waiting for some kind of follow-up, a reason. Anything that said, "Sorry, I should have told you. It was just a friend. I missed the place." But nothing came. Then the message arrived. No warning, no build-up. "Emma, I think I need some time. Things feel really off here. I'm not sure how I feel anymore." She froze. The cold of Dublin seeped straight through her bones. She typed, "That night, were you really alone?" He saw it, came online, went offline. Hours passed. Finally he wrote, "I don't know what to say right now, but I need space." And that was it. What used to be distance now had a name. Emma put the phone down, walked to the window. Rain tapped against the glass. Outside, everything moved. Inside, she stood still. That week she went quiet, missed classes, slept too much, cut her hair, not for change, but to see someone else in the mirror. Marta invited her out. She said she had homework, a lie. The professor asked if she was all right. She smiled sideways, another lie. She went silent in every language she knew, English, her own. One day, while digging through her backpack, she found the old notebook. Crumpled pages, pressed leaves. Inside, a brown envelope with her name written in Noah's handwriting. The first letter he gave her. "Open this when you miss me," he had said at the airport. She read a line, then another, and stopped. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She tore it in half, dropped the pieces into the trash between orange peels and lecture notes. Alone. No audience. No reply. That was when she realized she couldn't tell where the pain ended and where she began. One Thursday, she went back to class. Marta had knocked on her door that morning, saying the new writing professor was worth it. "He speaks softly, but it sticks to your skin," she'd said. Emma went. No expectations. She sat in the back, notebook in her lap, eyes low. The professor talked about unsaid things, about what gets stuck in our throats when the story ends too soon. Then he said, "Write a letter you never sent. A moment that was never spoken. Something you never got to ask." Emma closed her eyes. She knew exactly what had gone unsaid. She began to write. "I kept waiting for you to say it was just dinner, that no one sat across from you, that the second wine glass wasn't hers. I waited for you to deny it, to say we were still us. But you let the silence speak for you. I felt you leave before you told me. I just didn't want to believe it. But after all that waiting, I realized something. I'd abandoned myself too. And now, I'm trying to come back." Her hand shook. She didn't know if it was anger, grief, or just release. At the end of class, the professor asked if anyone wanted their text read aloud. She nodded. He read it with care. No rush, no emphasis. The room went silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. Marta wiped her eyes. Emma didn't move, but inside, something exhaled. Maybe this was how healing began, when pain becomes story and stops needing proof. If this story is making sense to you, if it resonated with you in any way, subscribe to the channel so we can keep telling stories like this. And before we continue, leave your like. Thank you for your support. That night, she sat on the floor of her room, window open, candle burning low. She took a new page and wrote one more letter. Not to send, just to say everything she'd left unsaid. I waited, held on to hope until it bled, believed you when I had no reason to. You did the best you could, so did I. Maybe if I had asked for more, you would have left sooner. Or maybe I never asked enough. But now, for the first time, I don't want you to come back. I don't want answers. I just want to leave. She tore the paper into strips, copied the lines onto yellow post-its, one above the bed. I waited. Now it's my turn. One on the mirror. What's left of you became room for me. On the door. I deserve to choose myself too. She didn't cry, but her eyes softened. She turned off the lights, laid down, and fell asleep facing the first post-it she'd stuck on the wall. Now, I go. In the days that followed, she wasn't a different person, but something inside her had changed its shape. The pain was still there, but now it moved with her. She returned to class slowly, started raising her hand again, not to prove anything, but because she wanted to know. One day, she turned in a short piece titled, "Things That Hurt Without Sound." The professor scribbled a note in the margin. You write like someone who's made peace with the unsaid. She kept that note, like a new kind of promise, to herself. She walked more, listened less to music, more to the city, found a library tucked between alleyways. She sat there, letting the sunlight fall across her notebook, page after page. She had lunch with Marta again. No one asked where she'd been. The chair was just there, waiting. Sometimes they talked about food. Sometimes about the ache that follows you quietly through airports. She laughed again. Real laughter. When someone mispronounced a word. When the barista spelled her name wrong, for the 4th time. She cooked rice and beans, fed her friends, told stories. She wrote. Not about the heartbreak. Not yet. But about the Dublin rain. The way the bus windows fogged. How the city lights looked kinder when you weren't trying to impress them. She thought of Noah sometimes, but not in the same way. She no longer looked for his name on her screen. No longer felt guilty for forgetting him for hours at a time. Now there was space and silence. Finally felt like peace. During her final week, she packed with care, folded her clothes like chapters, removed the post-its from the wall, one by one. She kept them all, tucked them inside her notebook. Not because she needed them, but because they were part of the story now. Her classmates planned a farewell dinner. Everyone brought something from home. She made brigadeiros and taught them how to roll it in buttered hands. At the table, they raised their glasses. Marta hugged her tight. "You'll come back here someday," she said. "Or you'll visit me," Emma replied, and meant it. But America was waiting. The house she grew up in, the same streets, the bookstore, the people who'd ask, "And Noah?" She was scared. Scared of not fitting in, of feeling too much, speaking too differently. of walking back into a room where everything was the same, except for her. On the morning of her flight, she woke up early, made coffee, wore the same coat she'd bought her first month in Ireland, and walked to the Liffey, the river she'd passed 100 times without really stopping. She sat down. No photos, no headphones, just wind, hair in her face, a stillness that no longer hurt. She closed her eyes, breathed in. She didn't have all the answers, didn't know if she'd come back, didn't know how to explain what had changed, but for the first time, she didn't need to. Some stories don't need a perfect ending, just the courage to turn the page,